The crowd jeered as they dragged her through the dusty streets of Veynar outpost. Ressa's wrists were bound, the rough fiber cutting into her scaled skin. The air was hot, dry, carrying the smell of dust, sweat, and cruelty. "She's cursed," spat one of the villagers, his voice sharp with hatred. "A liar and a thief," cried another. "Let the pit take her." Ressa stumbled, her knees scraping against the stone. Her people, the ones she had cooked for, traded with, laughed beside, had turned against her with frightening speed. A lost harvest, a broken treaty, a series of unlucky storms, and suddenly they needed a scapegoat. And she, with her bright violet scales and foreign lineage, was convenient. The men hauled her to the edge of the old well. Its stone walls were black with mildew, its depths stinking of stagnant water and rotting things. No one had used it for years, save as a punishment pit. "Any last words?" sneered the overseer. Ressa raised her head, her face streaked with dirt and tears. "I have done nothing. I only wish to live in peace." The overseer's reply was a shove. She fell. Her body struck the damp stones before plunging into the reeking water below. Darkness swallowed her. The crowd's jeers faded into silence above, the lid sliding shut across the well's mouth. The stench hit her first. Rot, mold, the thick film of filth that clung to the water's surface. She surfaced, gasping, her bound hands making it nearly impossible to tread water. The slime coated her scales. "Help!" she screamed upward. Her voice echoed, small and pitiful. "Please, somebody help me." But no one answered. For hours, Ressa clung to the slippery stones, her body trembling from exhaustion. Rats skittered across the walls above. Her throat burned from thirst, though she floated in foul water. Every muscle screamed with pain. She prayed for mercy. None came, until, faintly, she heard a voice. It was late evening when David Hale passed through Veynar outpost. The human trader was weary from travel, his boots coated in dust, his pack heavy with spare parts and dried rations. He had heard whispers in the market square earlier, something about a woman thrown into the old well, but cruelty among frontier folk was not uncommon. Still, as he passed the ruined courtyard, he paused. Something tugged at him. He listened. Help. It was faint, hoarse, broken, but unmistakably a plea. David frowned. He stepped closer, prying open the wooden cover that sealed the well. The smell nearly knocked him back. But beneath it, in the murky shadows, he saw movement. "Stars above," he muttered. "There's someone down there." Ressa tilted her head back, her violet eyes glimmering weakly in the dim light. "Please don't let me die." He didn't hesitate. Rummaging in his pack, David pulled out a coil of rope. Anchoring it around a stone outcrop, he lowered it down. "Can you climb?" he called. "My hand's bound." Her voice cracked. David cursed softly. He tied a loop in the rope and lowered it further. "Step in. I'll pull you up." It was agony, but Ressa obeyed, slipping one slimy foot into the loop. Her body was frail from hunger, her clothes tattered, but she clung desperately to the lifeline. With gritted teeth, David hauled her up, hand over hand, the rope burning his palms. Finally, he reached over the edge and pulled her onto solid ground. She collapsed, coughing, shivering, stinking of filth. "Easy now," David murmured, cutting the cords around her wrists with his knife. "You're safe." Ressa blinked at him in disbelief. Why would you save me?" "Because no one deserves to die like that," he said simply. The villagers were less than pleased when they saw her alive. "She was condemned," shouted one, rushing toward them. The well was her sentence. David stood firm, his hand resting near the pistol on his belt. Her only crime was being different. If you've got real charges, take them to the magistrate. Otherwise, she's coming with me." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Few wanted to challenge an armed human traitor with steady eyes. Grumbling, they dispersed, leaving curses in their wake. Ressa stared at David in awe. "You defied them. For me." He shrugged. "Someone had to." On his ship, the Eos Dawn, David gave her food, simple bread and broth, but to Ressa it tasted like heaven. She ate slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I would die in that darkness," she whispered. "I thought no one would hear." David poured her a cup of clean water. "I heard. That's enough." For days, she slept in the spare cabin, her body healing, her spirit fragile. Each time she awoke, she half expected to find herself back in the well. But instead, there was always food waiting, and David's quiet presence. One evening, as the ship sailed between stars, she joined him in the cockpit. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why risk yourself for a stranger?" David looked out at the streaking lights of hyperspace. "Because when I was a boy, I cried for help too. My village was burning, raiders everywhere. I called, but no one came. I survived by chance, but I swore if I ever heard someone crying, I'd answer. No one deserves silence." Her throat tightened. She touched his hand lightly. "You gave me more than life. You gave me hope." Over time, Ressa grew strong again. Her scales regained their sheen. Her laughter returned. She cooked meals from her people's recipes, sang lullabies long forgotten, and filled the ship with warmth. David, who had spent years wandering the stars alone, found himself smiling more often than he had in decades. Her presence was like sunlight after endless night. One night, as they watched Lyri Nebula's glowing clouds drift past the viewport, Ressa turned to him. "You saved me from a filthy well," she whispered. "But what you truly rescued me from was despair." David met her gaze, steady and warm. "And you saved me from loneliness." She leaned against him, her heart finally at peace. Years later, people still whispered of the alien woman thrown into a well, left to die in darkness. They whispered, too, of the human who heard her cries when no one else would. Together, they built a new story, not of cruelty and shame, but of kindness, defiance, and love. For sometimes, all it takes is one human answer to change the fate of an entire life.